everybody, this is Wikstrand. So one thing that always happened in action movies from the 90s and the early to mid 2000s was the hero walks away from an explosion sequence, which, you know, later in the other guys was explained as you can't do that. There is only one movie that I can remember that actually did it and made it look cool and realistic, and that is the movie that we're gonna take a look at today, John Carpenter's Vampires. Why does it look so good? Because it was done for realsies. James Wood is actually walking away from the actual explosion as it happens. No green screen, no phony shit, just James Woods and an explosion. And because it is sort of low-key done and sort of downplayed, it looked even better. This is truly the last great movie that John Carpenter did. It has its problems. I'm going to, call them out, but I'm also going to tell you why this is a movie that you probably should watch, because it is actually a kind of awesome movie. Let's find out what this movie is about, shall we? This is Vampires. Jack Crow, played by James Woods, and his merry band of vampire hunters have spotted a nest in New Mexico, and they think that there might be a master there. And after the initial cleaning out of the nest without any casualties or damages, they discovered that there was vampires there, but no master, which is unusual because a master never abandons a nest usually. But he will show up later when they have their guards down and stuff like that. And he is Valak, played by Thomas Ian Griffith in the only role he has ever done that was good, and the only movie he has ever starred in that was good. We'll get to him in a second. And he attacks the team and kills every single member of them except for Crow, Daniel Baldwin, and a hooker that he actually bites, which gives them an edge to him, because a person that has been bitten by a master has a link to the master, so they can see where he's going and what he's doing. And James Wood is trying to get a new team together, which also means that he has to chaperone around a young priest that doesn't know anything about vampires, and Jack Crow doesn't really trust his new preacher and doesn't believe he will be useful or anything like that, and he has to teach him all about how vampires work in this universe. This movie came out the same year as Blade, by the way. We'll make a comparison later, but in the same way that Blade says to the doctor in Blade that, forget what you've seen in the movies. This and that doesn't work on vampires, but this does. And so Jack Crow has to do the same thing, reinventing a little bit what the vampires can do, which unfortunately made Stephanie Meyers, make the entirety of the Twilight things the bane of my existence. But we're getting sidetracked. So they're trying to find what Valak is up to, because he is searching for something. And there might be a reason why he has left Jack Crow alive. We shall see where that is taking us. Will they be able to stop Valak from whatever evil plan that is cooking up? And will they be able to rebuild the team? And will, this young preacher be able to convince Jack Crow of his usefulness? We shall see. Now, one thing that this movie has that is so fucking great is James Woods. I think that Hollywood made a big mistake by not, turning him into a sort of Liam Neeson seasoned action star type of a character, because he's so fucking good in this movie. He is the purest definition of what an anti-hero should be. He's a cynical, practical asshole, but he's still working for the good guys. And that is so fucking awesome. He does a bunch of sketchy stuff like beating up people for no apparent reason and being a dick to them, and generally being a bit of a douchebag and an asshole. But comparing him to Valak, he is definitely the good guy, because, Valak kills a lot of, innocent people and stuff like that. Valak, by the way, played by Thomas Ian Griffith, is a decent villain, but it feels like Valak has escaped from a far inferior movie to this one, because, even though he has the cool look and the wig and stuff like that, and has that voice, Jack Crow, he still feels a little bit like, I don't know. But It's decent and he's an okay villain. It's a little bit more difficult to swallow Daniel Baldwin because he's by far the worst of the Baldwin brothers, and his character wasn't as interesting as, you know, James Woods and the Preacher, and, you know, his little arc was, I don't know, wasn't really for me. Another problem this movie has is the fact that a lot of action seems to happen off screen. We get to see the aftermath of a lot of, you know, the creative gore and the awesome action that we are deprived of. For instance, when they are attacking, you know, the nest in the beginning, we only get to see them, you know, fight one or two vampires, and then we get to see, you know, how they, you know, pull out them one by one and, you know, kill them and stuff like that. But we don't get to see the creative and cool gore. The, you know, gore we get to see is basically when Valak comes to wreck some shit with James Woods' team, and of course when he and his minions attack you know, the monastery and kill all those monks. We get to see that, but other thing we get to see the aftermath of, and that was a little bit, I don't know, it felt like they wanted to have the cake and eat it too. Either make this movie a 100% action movie or a horror movie. I would vote for an action movie, but you do you, John Carpenter. But for me, that was the biggest problem this movie had, because it's a really entertaining movie with a fantastic protagonist and a decent villain, and a really fun and entertaining movie. By the way, I love the atmosphere this movie has. I love the, you know, Western style that they're going for. I love the soundtrack, and I love the cinematography. This movie was pretty awesome, except, you know, of course, for the fact that we don't get to see a lot of the cool action sequences and the gore. But nah, we're going to have to live with it, I suppose. If I would compare this movie to Blade, which came out the same year, Jack Crow is a cooler hero than Blade, but Blade is a better movie than Vampires, in my opinion. If you've never seen this movie, I would really recommend you to see it. Maybe you will like it more than I did, but just be aware of that there is a lot of action and a lot of gore that will take place, you know, outside of the movie that you're going to watch. You're going to see, you know, the aftermath and stuff like that. But maybe you will be more forgiving to that than I was. But nevertheless, I think this is a very, very entertaining movie, and too bad John Carpenter's career never really recovered after this one. The Ghost of Mars, Jesus Christ. Jack Crow is one of my absolute favorite protagonists of all time. This is a very good action horror thriller movie that I'm proud to give 66 points to. I wish I could give it more. If it would have been, you know, more of an action movie and more of a gore fest, I probably could have given this up to 86, 87 points, but it's going to have to live with this because it is still a very fun movie. It still has an interesting story. Great soundtrack, great atmosphere, and great cinematography. I think this movie had the ability of being a modern classic. It just kind of stumbled a little bit on the finish line, and I will say that the ending wasn't as good as I hoped it would be, but I really liked the story of what Valak wants, and I really liked the toxic chemistry between the Preacher and Jack Crow. So which one is your favorite, Blade or Vampires? Comment below, and I'll see you next time from, well, so-and-so reviewing, well, such and such. Thank you for watching. Thank you very much.